The recording on this computer here. It's taking a couple minutes. Sometimes it actually snags and gets hung. No, we're going to start right now. Very good.
Good.
Okay, so this realization we're just finding. Okay, good. Very good. Let me check my volume here. Is my volume too high? No, it's okay. All right, you sound good too, Scott. Okay, so we're live, and I'm going to say hello to everybody and welcome. There we go. What happened here? Why didn't I do that? Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to the GoldFish Report on this Friday morning. It is July 17th, 2020. This is GoldFish Report number 526. And we are joined today by a friend of the GoldFish Report, a regular friend of the GoldFish Report now, our friend, Dr. Scott Werner. Welcome back, Scott. Good to see you, my friend.
Oh, thank you, and thank you for having me. And it's been a delightful week. We're making shifts and changes in our society, and things are actually looking up. They had a great ruling against the pharmaceutical industry for no safety, actual safety evaluations of immunizations, and so we're really moving forward. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and another attorney proved that the pharmaceutical industry didn't do the studies, didn't even do them to prove the safety and efficacy of these immunizations. So quite fascinating.
You know, Scott, we're going to be talking about healing emotional trauma, and you also mentioned the Declaration of Independence, which isn't usually a topic we talk about, but you are going to brilliantly weave these two together. I know that you will, because it's crazy what's happening. I think people are. One of the things we were just talking about is how. There's some good folks we know who have made mistakes or have been targeted for whatever reason, who are incarcerated, and they aren't being allowed to be released on because of this COVID situation, because it seems that they're only releasing the violent criminals.
Yeah, it's interesting. You can't have compassionate release for people who are non-violent and non-criminals, in my opinion. You know, Title 18 was passed by a society, not Congress, way back. And the Title 18 is a bunch of rules made to reduce the ability for the normal people to actually make money, and they can be put into prison for any reason. And a lot of people in prison are in there for nonviolent crimes at all. I mean, they didn't commit anything against another person, and they're just using their First Amendment rights to teach, and they're thrown in there because they're considered despotism and anarchists and everything. But these are people who are philosophers, basically, very intelligent people. But they throw them in jail because they foment ideas in the public that keep us free, that keep us from tyranny.
But that's the whole point. I mean, when they retaliated against me for going to a town hall meeting and exercising my First Amendment right at a public forum where that's specifically stated in the Constitution, that's what we're permitted to do. That's where the First Amendment is exactly for that purpose. It just seems that it's just the illusion they want us all to believe that we have these rights when in fact we actually don't under admiralty law. So,
Yes.
and I think that's why. So it has caused a lot of trauma in the public, absolutely, because there's so many people, you don't tend to notice and see it as a I would say as a systemic issue, and then even on a larger scale see it as a complete hoodwinking by the courts, completely usurping our constitutional protections via a corporate status that not only our country is in, but that we, each and every one of us, are in as well. So that, leads us back to the Declaration of Independence, which is where you're going to go. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say about this. And I know you had gotten some inspiration from Saint Germain as well. And I'm excited to hear about what you have to talk about.
I woke up at 2 this morning and ended up going to the bathroom. By the time I got back into bed, it was 2:22, and 2:22 was when Saint Germain appeared to me in Reno, Nevada.
Mhm.
And so it reminded me of that appearance. And so I laid down in bed, and literally Saint Germain started coming in, and he said, Scott, you need to talk about the Declaration of Independence, because we are experiencing a tyranny going on, and it's not by President Trump. It's about the people behind the cabal. Every time I see these people and they get up and talk and start trying to uh, bring up the problems that President Trump's causing, and that they're things that they want to get rid of the president because of, but the
Yeah.
president's actually trying to bring the power back to we the people. And we the people is a part of our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution. And so St. Germain started talking about how when they were formulating the Declaration of Independence, they had convened together, and our founding fathers were all kind of scared to do it because they knew it would make them, you know, uh, into criminals because of the laws of the king and of England. And so they were debating whether to do it or not. And Saint Germain actually appeared on the roof of the convention hall, and they were up there smoking, like our founding fathers did. All of them
Milk and
owned
pipes.
tobacco farms and
Uh,
and different things, and they were up there having a smoke. And Saint Germain appeared to them, and he gave his very famous speech at that time, telling them that if they don't act now, tyranny will continue and get worse.
mm,
And so
mm.
in his speech, he gave them so much good information about why they should sign. And John Hancock got so excited that he signed in big letters so the king could read it without his spectacles. It's quite fascinating, but I'd like to go to the Declaration and read some of these things and go through them, because I'm sure a lot of you haven't even read the Declaration in years.
So we're going to screen share, yeah. And you can, you know, I love this because, I report on the president and on policy. So this is near and dear to me. Actually, I have a copy of it sitting right next to me somewhere on the in the room here, and it's something that we can't forget. This is from the National Archives. This is a transcription of the Declaration. Here is the actual. Down here is the actual. Written version, and in the archives it's actually just as faded. It's a faded,
Yes.
maybe faded and faded. You know what I mean? Because it's hard to read. Faded, but it's
Hated, yes.
faded. See, linguistically we pronounce that word the same way. Isn't that interesting? We hardly distinguish between the T and D because they're interdental sounds, but what are you going to do?
Yep. Yep. We're
Here we go.
fated to be faded.
Yeah.
But I wanted to read this first part. Well, the very first part talks, they talk about dissolving the political bands connecting England and the United States. And then they start to give these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, were endowed by our Creator with inalienable rights, unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They're not saying in there anywhere that don't have to go out and work for our food or our housing or anything like that, which is what the tyrannical people are trying to do to us, because it would, you know, the whole socialism deal, it's been indoctrinated in our schools, but it is not any part of a government's duty to do all these things. It's our right to get our food, get our housing, get our safety, but we are guaranteed by the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. In other words, you know, all these people killing human life. You know, I was watching a video yesterday. This lady was at a AOC conference or convention. You know, she's still feeling out people wanting to run for president. And one of her people was talking about, oh, we've got to eat our babies because they're going to be giving more CO2 out. And, you know, when President Trump made that comment, at least we're not eating our own babies. You know, this really is a debate currently. And they've made abortions available clear up until labor. In fact, you can still do it during labor if you want, kill your baby. And you know, this inalienable right of life is just being messed with by the cabal. And it's making people think outlandish things that aren't in congruence with the inalienable rights of, you know, where's the inalienable rights of our infants?
Right.
And
I mean, they're eating babies, even if you take the abortion issue out of the picture, they're torturing the children and
yes,
kidnapping children and sacrificing children and eating children and using their adrenalized blood to, you know, to ingest and give them the appearance of youth. And so exactly, where is those rights? And this is the debate. It's sick, but you know, it's end times, and this is definitely what was going to be revealed. That was going to be vile. Everything vile was everything
yes,
done in the dark was going to come out and be revealed. And you have Chrissy Teigen, not like I think she's an actress of any talent, but you know, she's well known, and she is tweeting that she's going to prison because of pizza. Well, you know, those code words, pizza, Pizzagate. This is about,
yeah.
they would
She's
use,
going,
yeah, the code words of describing pizza, even hot dogs being flown to the White House during the Obama administration. These are all codes for pedophilia and also child sacrifice and horrible things that they do to children. And it's so vile. It's so sickening, folks. But you know what? We have to see it so we make sure it never happens again.
yeah, and with the pursuit of happiness, how in the heck can we be happy if we're all abused so badly as children? I mean, it's like, oh, it starts out our lives just really messed up. And that's why, you know, the other part of our show, we're going to talk about some of these emotional abuses that we've all gone through and how to deal with them.
Yeah.
So when governments are instituted among men, deriving their powers, their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever a form of government becomes destructive to these ends, like Congress currently is trying to pass these things that are so destructive to all of us, that it's time that we get rid of these people. I mean, you're talking about, you know, when I talk to people and they're talking about voting and voting in these destructive ideas and things that will actually take away our life, liberty, and our pursuit of happiness.
Right.
You know, you've got to look about what you're voting for, people. I mean, even to breathe out carbon dioxide is evil. I was never so glad as when President Trump pulled us out of that Paris Accord, because what it was a tax on you breathing out carbon dioxide. Your vehicle breathing out carbon dioxide, your cows breathing out carbon dioxide.
Methane, the new killer.
Yeah, and it was such a ridiculous thing to yoke the people with, because it would have literally brought in money to a small amount, and those small amount are George Soros, Bill Gates, and Warren Buffett. They're some of the richest cabalists in the whole world. And they are creating this scenario that isn't even conducive to our freedoms, our lives, or our pursuit of happiness. And so just understand that, this Declaration of Independence was a declaration against the tyrannical people running the earth. And we have the cabal running the earth, but luckily we're starting to fight back. But let me tell you, it's not going to happen without all of us learning what's going on and participating in getting rid of the tyranny. Because most of us are asleep. We're watching TV and having them indoctrinate us that, oh, it's President Trump who's bad. No, President Trump is trying to free up we the people so we can actually get back to having life, liberty, and a pursuit of happiness. Is
Right.
trust me, that's been taken away.
Well,
And
let me just point out something here. Hold on.
yes,
Ooh, I'm using my handy dandy little tool in Zoom. Says here. Now, listen to how sneaky they are, okay? We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that that they are endowed by their creator, as you said, with certain, I call it unalienable rights. And I know it's going to trigger some people. Please don't be triggered by it, because you have to look at the word both ways.
yes,
Okay, unalienable, and nobody's defined that. Unalienable means you can't put a lien against these rights. You can't take them away without some kind of due process. So it is accurate to interpret that word both ways. But you can disagree with me. You can put the comments in the comment section. But let's
oh, I think that's perfect.
yeah.
Alienable,
Well,
because
this is how Winston and I.
literally they put liens on us and we are enslaved.
They have,
all of us.
and well, and the lien is this: your birth certificate. If you don't think that that's not a lien against your future work, your future income that you derive from your work, your life's work, right? Then you don't understand what it is. It is a financial instrument, your birth certificate.
Yes.
So there is a lien on you. You are commoditized. You are being sold as a slave. Okay, so let's not digress too much.
Yes.
To secure these rights, sorry, this is how they get us, folks. Listen, to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. Okay, this is it. Deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Now, this is it. This is the hoodwinking. This is the trick. How they need to get their rights from us. Okay?
Yes.
They're supposed to represent us, and they don't. I don't feel that they do. But this is what they do. In order to justify what they do, we have to allow it. And there you have it. So they social engineer, they manipulate, they traumatize us in many different ways to instill fear in us, as you discussed before. They've done everything they possibly could to scare us to death into complete submission and obedience and to whatever they want. And we've allowed it. And I hate to say we've allowed it. We have allowed it. So they're doing what we've allowed them to do. It says it right here, and they're going to tell you the same thing. They're going to say, look at this. So what that means is it begs us to get off our knees and stand up and take back control of this country. Now, sadly, we're not united. We used to be united. When this document was written, most of us were more united than anything, except the native population. That wasn't probably not the case, I would say. But anyway, that's another topic. I'm just talking about this document and people who were included to be included into this document, okay? And now we have a much bigger population, and we have the social engineering of dividing and conquering all of us. And sadly, it has worked. It has worked, Scott. But they can't get their power if we don't consent. We have Pelosi in office, what, 30, 40 years? Schumer in office, 30, 40 years, right? We have Maxine Waters in office. They're career politicians that get no results, do nothing. And they're talking about problems, but what have they done in 30 years to correct them? And the answer is nothing. So in fact, what we see them doing now is they're trying to destroy this very document that we're looking at right now. So
Yes, they
I just wanted to point out that there is massive psychology in order to trick us, folks, to allowing them to do this to us, because they are deceiving us. This is the great deception that we have, that because they took it away from us. They absolutely have taken this entire declaration away from us. This unalienable or unalienable rights. They take that away from every one of us every day when they deny us life or liberty or pursuit of happiness, and
yeah, and
we
they've
allow it.
denied it. This whole, COVID thing has been so blown out of proportion, but they've blown it out of proportion to take away our rights to get together, to convene with one another, to meet in groups. You in a lot of states, they don't let you meet in groups larger than 6 or 7 people. It's just become a joke, and it's because they want to divide us, keep us from learning the truth. And let me tell you, it's worked out pretty dang good for them, because over half the people are asleep. They're not in knowledge of what's really going on. They're putting on these masks, covering up their face. And the mask is a form of worship of Baal, who is the god of Satanism. And these people don't even know it.
Oh,
And so we need to be careful about what we are allowing to take over our country. And let me tell you, the United States is the last nation in the world that can save the world, because, Europe is under the EU. They're controlled, they're taxed, they're enslaved. And we have allowed ourselves to have the same things happen because of all these unjust laws that have been passed.
this is mind control. This is them getting us to do their bidding for them, so that they can say, well, you allowed it. We didn't deny you anything. You didn't allow. It's governed by the will of the people. So the people's will is allowing this. Folks, know our declaration. We have to understand it's our responsibility to be the checks and balances.
Yes.
That's how that
It,
document was written. Yeah.
no, and it was due to taxation without representation. Literally, we're getting taxed, and we get a vote maybe once every 2 years for national leaders. But these leaders are taxing the heck out of us and not actually representing what we the people want. And so we are getting taxation without representation, because Congress has made themselves exclusive to the rules of their own taxes and their own laws. They are above the law. We've got these people who've been in there 30, 40 years, and they don't even know what it's like to have a real job, to be working for your living, because they're guaranteed all this money every year,
Huh.
and they vote themselves tax raises
Okay, hold
and
on.
salary raises.
Hold on. Video playback is in, something's going on with the feed, because it's all black on the live stream. Just got a notification. I showed that once before. I don't really see any reason why. Can anybody in the live chat please comment if the video's back on? Interesting, isn't it? They want to censor. See, Scott, this is it. They want to censor us. This is free speech. We're showing news. I'm reporting news. This was out in the public. It is a public domain. Okay, the president has made an executive order declaring that the social media platforms are not simple platforms, but they are a public domain, a public space, rather, a public forum is the more appropriate term. The problem is,
Yes.
I don't know if we're actually able to get this back. The video playback interrupted. Oh boy, okay, keep playing. Let me see. I don't know. That
They
looks like,
were watching for us to do something.
yeah. I've played that before though. I mean, it didn't happen. I don't see anybody commenting. They may have disabled the live chat. I don't know. But you know what? It's still recording. No, it says it's live, but go ahead. I'm going to see if I can find it on my other device. You can continue, Scott, because this is still recording, and so we'll just publish it. Sorry
Hey,
for the interruption, folks.
put the declaration back up, and I'll continue. And scroll down just a little bit, down
Uh,
where it starts giving the grievances.
okay, here we go.
Okay, these were the grievances against King George. You know, it's interesting. Last night, when Saint Germain, this morning when Saint Germain came in, he also talked about uh, Hamilton. You know, and Hamilton wrote all these Federalist letters, and it's in a book called The Federalist. And when this, you know, his son was killed in a duel, and he told his son to point his gun in the air because he didn't want him killing another human being. You know, a lot of people think it was cowardice that caused it, but no, it was they wanted to follow the laws of God and not kill another human being. And so, anyway, Hamilton himself, you know, was there, and he helped make the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. And Hamilton was actually going to be running for president against Thomas Jefferson. And he ended up being in a duel and ended up pointing his gun up, and the other guy shot him, and he eventually died from the wound. But the reason I'm bringing this up is he did it because he didn't want to kill another life. Now, these were good men. These were not traitors. These were not out there committing murders. These were men who were trying to give the people their life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And, you know, not all the people in America wanted that. Some just wanted to follow King George to their death. And King George knew this. And so he actually had stationed troops here in the United States and made the people feed them, keep them warm, do all this stuff. And it was taking away their rights as citizens because not only were they, you know, they were trying to be a part of a new world, new colonies, and produce and get about their labors, but having to take care of all these troops became such a burden that they couldn't even feed their own families, let alone these troops. And so in here, one of the things was that King George had brought these troops all over to control us, and yet, you know, they were causing trouble with families because, and you know, who knows if they were, you know, getting horny and raping their girls or what they were doing. And so, you know, it's one of those situations that was diabolical. And so our Constitution went away again.
Yeah, I'm starting the live stream. I just had to go into another window for a second. I'm trying to
Ah,
restart it. It was I'm getting text messages and emails from the people who were in the chat that we were axed.
yeah,
They killed the live stream link. Yeah, which is
yeah,
unusual because I shared it last night during a live stream. Actually, it wasn't a live stream. It was, yes, it was a live stream. So go figure. Plus, it's on Twitter. It's already still there. It's not deleted, right?
yeah, yeah.
Oh boy, oh boy. Yeah, nope. No, they're not letting me stream again.
Oh,
I'm sorry, Scott.
it's okay. It's
We'll just
okay.
keep going. Okay, I'll screen share if it.
Well, we can get it up on other channels. So,
Here we go. Not a problem. Yeah, I'm still going to publish it, but it's not live. People wanted to see it live. I'm doing my
uh,
best. Okay.
so and getting the, basically the Democrats put so many judges in, and they trained them to usurp the powers of good people and put them in prison. And the interesting thing is they have the power to confiscate all of your things, everything you own. This happened to me when they put me in prison. They literally took my business, they took my land, they took everything I had accumulated for in my pursuit of happiness, and they took it away. And so, that's another thing that they do is as our people are doing well, you either join their subversive institutions, or, by you doing so well, they come and usurp all that you have accumulated and they take it away from you. And they call it justice, which is another thing in the many absolutions that they did, was King George would come in and tax businesses that were doing well. And it's interesting because, President Trump's been trying to untax us and take away a lot of these legislated taxes that are not constitutional. And yet the Democrats scream right and left, oh, he's taking away the funds for all our social programs and this, that, and the other thing that were never guaranteed under the Constitution. And yet we've made it so that everybody is become enslaved to all these taxation without proper representation, and the representatives becoming professional politicians. We need some sort of thing to happen where we can kick these people out, because the ones voicing the most against our president are the ones who've been there the longest, because they know the president is going to try and change things so that they don't become these people of power, unlimited power. And that's why they want to abolish President Trump and impeach him and get rid of him, because he is actually making the changes I thought Obama would make, but little beknownst to me, Obama actually enslaved the United States even more than we were, even more than King George Bush. And so it was quite fascinating as you discuss these things. And erected a multitude of new offices, and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. Now, this is talking about all these different levels of government. I mean, even in this COVID thing, the Department of Health, and the CDC, and all these subsidiaries of the government, they're so huge, and so many people are employed by the government. And what's fascinating about what they've been doing is with the Department of Health, they actually have been deceiving us about the extent of what this virus is,
Right. We
and
can't get a
calling
straight
it a
answer.
pandemic before it became a pandemic. Now,
Mm-hmm.
let me tell you something, new information that's been coming out is that the swabs that they're using to diagnose COVID with,
Mm-hmm.
they have actually been adulterated prior to even being put in the mouth of people. In other words, they have the virus on the swabs. We had a group of nurses here in St. George, Utah, sent in 100 swabs that hadn't been swabbed. They put fake names on it. They all came back 100% COVID. And what does this mean?
That's criminal.
The swabs
Yeah.
are adulterated to make it look like it's a pandemic. And yet it's not. And guess who did this? Johnson and Johnson, who is owned by who? The majority stockholders, Soros, Buffett, and guess who? Bill Gates. This has been pandemic for 20 years. And when this came out, they knew if they put us into fear and into anger and into the unknown, it would create more mind control. And right now, we are being mind controlled to the nth degree. We're having to cover up our faces. We're having to sequester ourselves. We can't meet together in public. It sounds to me like good old King George is in charge right now.
Yep. Sure
And
does.
Trump's trying to open things up. But then when he says that, they bring out all this hostility and anger that he doesn't care that you die, you know. But the thing is, it's not real what's going on. And if you look at the actual death rate, it's still lower than the normal flu.
Well, definitely there's a virus, but I think you're right. I think most people would agree that this is not a pandemic as they are trying to characterize it. It's mischaracterization. And so then exactly they're forcing these draconian measures on us in order to justify, they're blowing this out of proportion in order to justify this level of
Closing down
yeah.
commerce. I mean, I've met probably 40% of the business owners I know, they're out of business.
Mhm.
And it's a
Yeah.
joke because these people provide jobs, very few jobs, of course, you know, but the corporations are still alive and well because they have billions and billions of dollars. And the United States corporation is still in business because, you know, they just make the money.
Mhm.
But what we need to do is rein in and make our republic,
Mm.
because our constitutional rights have been stripped. Our ability as people to live and pursue happiness,
Mm.
you know, it's been stripped from us. And so what's the message for today is take your anger, take your anxiety, your fear, and shift it into motivation. Because if we continue in the fear, all our energy is just going to cause us to go into cortisol. It's very bad for our body. It dampens our immune system. If we get hit with a virus, we get a lot sicker than normal. And it's better to move your energy out of fear and move it into hope and start doing things. You
Mhm.
know, every time I get on with different talks and different things, everybody's always asking, oh, when's the RV going to happen? Well, the RV's happening. But the thing we've got to realize is we need to get out there and start our movement now, free ourselves from the tyranny of what Congress and that they have done in the laws that they have passed,
Mm.
and start getting rid of these people who are literally they're making a living off of us and enslaving us. And we need to bring back our power, and we can't do it in fear, we can't do it in anger. We've got to focus our attention and get our lives back in order.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get us back on live, and it's not happening. It's showing on my screen that we are, but we're not live.
Yeah, it
Um,
says recording live on YouTube. They just want
but
to
we're
see
not.
what we're going to say, I think,
I know, but we're not.
over at Google.
Well, we were over the target. You see, the whole issue of mind control. I mean, that was pretty obvious that this is what. Let me just take a look at the channel real quick while you're. Um, you're talking, but you're absolutely right. We have to be. It's up to us. I mean, I feel like I say this in every report that it's, they're going to do. No, it's not live. It's not live.
Yeah.
Um, and yet it says, let me see.
It says it's live, but
Right, and
it's
I'm going
only
to.
live to Google, and they're going to watch and see what we say.
Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to. I'm sorry we have to do this during the interview, but I have to show. I'm going to screen share this. It says it's live, and I'm going to screen share the actual channel to show that in fact it is not live. So it's giving me a false. I mean, this is really not nice. This is a false. It says it's recording, yet it's not showing up on the channel itself.
Yeah.
Even if I change views of the channel, it's not showing up either. So I'm going to take a screenshot of that, and I'm going to talk about this later. I'm sorry, we could try streaming on Facebook, but we could do that if you'd like, because it's showing. I can see it. Scott can see it. I don't. I know the viewers can't see it, but um, yeah, it's definitely not. Because here, I'll screen share the channel. In fact, this is a great way to show it. You can see this is our GoldFish Report channel, and it does not show that there is a live stream going on right now. You see that?
Yeah.
If there
Yeah.
was a live stream, it would be, here's our homepage as well. It would be up here, it would be lit, it would say live, it would say live right next to it. This is the interview I did last night. So it's not here anywhere. But Scott is correct. But here on my channel, it's showing this. Look, this is the control page for this interview, and it's showing, let me see if this is the beginning, hoodwinking by, so this was earlier. This is what it's showing.
Yeah.
It's very, look, this is the tyranny that we're talking about, isn't it, folks? We're actually having this conversation and it's not allowed. We're being censored, right as we speak, Scott. This has never happened. But Scott, this isn't the first time, though.
Yeah.
I mean, this kind of thing has never happened, but we didn't go live. But once you and I and Winston were doing a report, I don't remember what it was on, but remember we had those, it was like a helicopter sound in the headset.
Yep.
We were
Yep.
being interfered with somehow.
Yes.
Wow. It still
Okay.
says live.
So what would you like to do?
Stop live stream because it's not recording. I think I'm going to just go on Facebook for right now. I'm going to live stream on Facebook.
Okay.
And we can continue. So sorry, folks, but this is the thing. It's, I think they're experiencing it with us. Scott, they're choose on my timeline. Now I want to post this on page I manage, GoldFish Report. Okay. Let me just see what I need to do. And then we can resume. Yeah, we're going to go live onto Facebook instead. They're much better, but at least you know, we can still stream live. Some of the viewers will be there. This is a secure connection, fetching video stream. Okay. Say something about this video. Hold on, just bear with me for 1 minute.
Oh, you're fine.
I can edit it
My
out.
Federalist book.
Oh, good. The GoldFish Report, number 526. That's it. So it's going to take a second or two to do this. Food for the soul. We had people from Brazil, in our live chat while we were talking, and all over the world, and they're a little disappointed, I'm sure. But it's a good thing that I do have backups. Go live. Okay.
Oh
I do
yeah.
have backup channels. I mean, here we are. I could even go live right on to even Vimeo or some other sources that I have. So um, I guess you just caught off guard. So here we go. Are we live on Facebook right now? Let's see. Just get started. All right, it's taking a minute. So Scott, I think that people need to have a sense of self-efficacy. They need to realize that they do have some control over their lives. If they realize um, that, as the Constitution says, they get their power by the rules, the consent of the governed. And we definitely have to be taking um, responsibility for this. You know, we have to hold them accountable. Um, that's really what the Constitution, I'm sorry, what that Declaration of Independence says. So,
Yes.
so I'm not
Yeah,
sure if
it's
this is going live or not. I'm not sure if I can see it live, but we'll just keep going. We'll,
okay.
it's all we can do. I don't know.
Yes.
Let me see.
So, I'm holding a book called The Federalist.
Mhm.
This was written by Alexander Hamilton and James Madison and another one of the founding fathers, like uh,
Mhm.
Jay. His last name was
Mhm.
Jay. But anyway, in this book is all of the Federalist Papers where James Madison and Alexander Hamilton were writing to the people of various states, mainly New York, and trying to tell them about these new governing principles of freedom because we've been under King George for so long that our country needed to learn because it was brand new, and we weren't used to our freedoms. And so they wrote these Federalist Papers, and Alexander Hamilton and James Madison were known as Federalists because they wanted a powerful federal government. And then you had the other aspect who wanted a weak federal government and most of the power being in the
Mhm.
states, which were, George Washington actually wanted more power in the states. Uh, Thomas Jefferson, more power to the states, and even Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin kind of helped mediate between the
Right.
Federalists and the
Mhm.
state people. And, the thing we need to realize is that people were so used to being governed by a king, wanted another king, and so they wanted George Washington to be a king. But he had fought against this tyranny, and he told the people, you need to hold on to what we've got now, and it's very slippery because it
Mhm.
slipped right out of your fingers. And he was right because we, the people, have been asleep and we've allowed our rights to slip out of our fingers. And it's time that we took our freedom, our rights back. And we don't do this through violence because we already have a constitution. We bring it through bringing back the constitution and getting rid of the tyrannical laws and organizations that have been created by the tyrannical Congress and caused us to have such a widespread government that we are literally supporting an army of officers in the government without representation
Mhm.
because the representatives are representing them, not us. And so we need to vote these people out because, literally they've usurped the power of the people and put it in all these governmental agencies. And the agencies should be subservient to we, the people, not vice versa. And so I just want people to understand this fear that they've put us in is due to a lot of lies and a lot of tyranny. They they have made falsified testing. They have made falsified documents of who's lied. I was watching, listening to a show on the AM channel with Rush Limbaugh, and a lady called up from a coding. She's a coding specialist, and she codes for the insurance companies. And she said how they were told to code deaths with the COVID, even if it wasn't a part of the coding, but to code it so that they get reimbursement,
Mhm.
better reimbursement. And she was afraid to even tell her name because she knew she'd be fired. So she came on anonymously telling about this and how her other coding friends had been told the same things. And it was their jobs were dependent on it, which to me is very evil. That they're being told to code deaths as being caused by COVID that weren't. And so we're being duped, and we're being sequestered. We're being
Mhm.
made to put
Puzzles.
the
Yeah.
the darn masks on without evidence of a
Mm.
pandemic.
Yeah, I have an image to share with everybody just to further illustrate this point. I think this really kind of sums it up as good as it can. See that, Scott?
Oh my gosh. Oh, I love it. I love it. That's funny. She's got little teeny masks,
On
baby
her
teeny
eyes.
masks over her eyes. Oh my gosh. You
Yes,
know, they
it
make
is.
those, and it's interesting. Having been an OBGYN, I'd go in to check on babies, and sometimes they'd have the babies with these little teeny masks.
Oh my God, really?
Oh my gosh. And here
Mm.
their oxygenation wasn't that good anyway. And, you know, I
Yeah.
was taught as a
Mm.
surgeon,
Right,
make sure that I have everybody in the surgical suite to take deep breaths,
right.
you know, and tell little jokes so they would laugh a little bit behind that mask to oxygenate them a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah. Let me
And
ask a question about this since, you are a medical doctor. There have been reports, I have not been able to independently verify them, but I have seen people in photos of people in hospitals, and the captions that they're posting of their photos is that they are getting pleurisy in the lung. There's people getting, uh, what is it, fungal infections in the lung from the schmutz in the mask. We talked about the schmutz before. Um, there's also people taking these CO2, I'm sorry, yeah, these oxygen readers, and they're sticking it in the mask, and they're watching as the person talks with the mask on, it's watching the oxygen levels decrease. And we're rebreathing, and it almost is like almost exponential, like the longer and the more you're wearing it. Now, could you imagine to people, you imagine children, kids who are working, teenagers who are working, anybody who has to wear this mask for 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. What's going to happen with these people, Scott?
yeah, it does allow for fungal infections because fungus likes a lower PO2. That's why people get apnea, is they have fungus in their lungs and in their nerves. And fungus likes a lower PO2 or a lower percentage of oxygen. And as we wear these masks, they've proven it lowers your oxygen. And it causes you to breathe your own CO2, and it doesn't allow as much fresh oxygen to come in. We weren't built to wear masks.
Yeah.
Our bodies don't do well in masks.
Mm.
It lowers our immune response. Oxygen actually kills viruses. So if you're wearing a mask, you're more likely to, if you get a little bit on you and you touch your mouth or whatever, that virus is more likely to survive in a lower oxygen environment.
Mhm.
You know, one of the simplest treatments for viruses is hydrogen peroxide. You know, just the 3% that you can buy a quart of it for a couple of
Mhm.
bucks.
Mhm.
Just put a teaspoon in your mouth, let it fizz, it'll kill viruses in your
Mhm.
mouth.
Yeah.
It's amazing the simple things that doctors have forgotten about, you know. I mean, literally, we're trained to use pharmaceuticals, we're trained to do surgery, we're
Mhm.
trained to do things that are invasive because that's where the money is. But simple treatments like vitamin C, zinc, oxygen,
Mhm.
peroxide, you know, hydrogen peroxide, these are not being touted because they're simple and too cheap. And and
Exactly,
yet,
exactly. But I mean, our grandmothers were doing it.
oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Our grandmothers were doing it. I mean, is it not good enough now? I mean, the yeah. I mean, look, I run into that a lot, and oh no.
What happened?
So I just found out that Facebook has
Also
completely,
not.
no, they've changed the format of their page. You can switch back to classic at Facebook at any time. So then why do they force you to change it anyway to begin with? Oh, it's just another.
Another
Ridiculous.
hurdle to get over.
Yeah, we are live on Facebook, just so you know.
Good,
Yeah,
good,
we are.
good.
I'm able
So,
to check on another account. Yeah, so I can see that we
so
are.
how do we get out of fear? Number one, you have to say out loud, I cancel my fear and I replace it with love. Because
Mm,
fear is the absence of love. Now, let me tell you that Kabbalists
mhm,
want us to have no love.
mhm,
And that's when we start doing these horrible things.
mhm.
You know, when we go out and hurt people, when we do things that is the absence of love, and we do it without love, then we're committing atrocity,
Mhm.
committing things that are not good. And that's what's happened to the cabal. They have no love. They have been trained to do very evil things, and they don't feel any remorse because
Right.
they don't have any love.
Well, they love power.
Yeah,
They just
well,
love.
they love money and sex and whatever the hell they're doing,
Mhm.
and they don't love others. They
Right.
only love themselves. You know, they become very narcissistic. Narcissism is very alive and real, love of the self and not love of others.
Mhm.
And we need to realize that we are beings who are all one. And if we don't love others, we really don't love ourselves.
Mhm.
And, you know, and yet narcissists, they think they love themselves. They've been trained to do things for themselves that are
Yeah.
actually very diabolical.
It's sad because they're extremely insecure individuals, and so
Yes.
they're extremely insecure for whatever reason. I mean, it could be a whole bunch of different reasons, right, Scott? But they're so insecure that they really feel like they have to have control over other people in order to get what they want or have um, a feeling of I don't know, it feeds their ego or self-esteem in some way that kind of fills that hole that apparently is missing, in their self, I suppose their persona or their self-concept, you know?
Yes. Yeah. And how we change our subconscious belief system, because these become integrated into our subconscious. And
Right.
you know, the people who are asleep, they're just doing things automatically. You know, half of them will drive home and they won't even remember how they got home because subconsciously they tuned out and they just drove home. And you know, you're more likely to get in accidents, and if you're paying attention to your cell phone, even more likely. And a lot of us are paying so much attention to all the fearful stuff. Yeah, I have to admit, even the good websites are displaying all of this horrible, horrible stuff that's happening.
Mhm.
And we need to focus on love, because love is going to replace that fear within us with a higher emotion and actually start healing our bodies. You know, I watch people who are driving around their car with a mask on, and nobody's in their car with them. And it's like, uh, okay, you've been given this scenario, and now you're afraid of yourself, because that's what I see when people are in the car by themselves with a mask on. It's so incredible because their subconscious mind has taken over and they're not thinking clearly enough to take off the damn mask and get some oxygen.
Yeah, they're driving their car with it on. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
And they're driving their car with lower oxygen. I mean, heaven's sakes, people, let's think and have some common sense. You know, Thomas Paine always, he wrote the book Common Sense, and he said, common sense is not very common. We need to bring common sense back and wake up to what's true and real and really happening. Because when we bring back the truth makes us free. And the truth is you are free And your sovereignty, even under the Declaration of Independence, brings that sovereignty in of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's our sovereignty. And we can take our sovereignty back, but we can only do it if we all start communicating with love, we start communicating the messages, we start putting people into Congress that actually represent the people and not themselves, not these narcissists.
Yeah. We
Oh,
need
I
we
tell you,
need true patriots. We need people who are real dedicated to our Constitution. And you can know them. The only way we can know them is by their actions, by their fruits. We have to see, we really have to examine these people, and we have to hold them to a standard. We can't just say, oh, well, they've all, had affairs on their spouses. They've all had, some kind of run in with something or whatever. And, honestly, folks, we have to hold them to higher standards. That's all.
yes.
I mean,
And
it's not that everybody cheats on their spouse. Some people actually have integrity. Some people actually have morals and values that they live by every day. There's really good people in this world. But the only requirement, the only thing that truly allows evil to persist is for good people to stand by and do nothing.
you're exactly right. It's so important that you wake up, but not only, these people are already woken up and they're made to look like they're, radicals and different things for the right, but there's not a radical right that believes in the Constitution. The Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, the preamble, the Bill of Rights. These are documents that defend the human population from tyranny. And we've allowed tyranny to move in and take away our God given rights and liberties,
Yeah.
and we need to take them back. And true, we need to elect people who believe in this.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
but what's interesting is a lot of our children have not been taught this. They've been taught socialism,
yeah.
and the millennials, 90% of them are into the socialism network,
Yeah.
and the socialism
Yeah.
is not giving you rights. It actually makes the state the dictator of what you say, do, and feel.
No, there's something very nefarious going on with this public school system. The fact that these kids are hooked up to these Chromebooks all day, even before, this is why for my kids, they were already hooked up to the Chromebooks all day doing work on the Chromebooks. It's the Google platform, Google Classrooms and stuff. And so it was a very easy transition for them to make. What a coincidence.
What a
Uh,
coincidence.
Very
Yeah,
easy
and see, if we
transition.
stay on the computers, that's all we're going to be able to deal with. And that's why Trump wants to open up the schools again and get our kids getting a decent education and not being dictated by Chromebooks.
Yeah, well, the problem with this also is that whatever is we don't see all the digital information that we are being exposed to through the interface of the plasma screens. So
Yes.
there's a lot of subliminal and other information that is coming through and influencing us on a subliminal or subconscious level. The problem with that is that we don't know what that is that's getting into our children's minds. I can tell you that kids today are very resistant to this. They are so completely, and they will stand in conviction to, this sense of, you know, this George Floyd was murdered and these riots are all justified. And you're looking at them like, what planet are you from? And they're kids. They don't know because their history's been adulterated as well. And
Yeah.
they're believing what they're learning in school because, well, everybody else is learning that, and the teachers and adults around them are teaching them. And they come home and it's like, you know, one of their kids is like, does your mom really believe that? And I'm like, It's the president. The president's talking about fake news on the media. It's not whether your mom believes it. Did you not hear the president talk about fake news? So it's kind of like, I'm shocked. I'm so shocked. And because this is so different from what we're used to. We didn't grow
Uh,
up this way, Scott, you know.
well, MK Ultra has literally ingrained in our children the lack of the teachings of basic human nature, and literally they've made our children not believe in the Ten Commandments, because thou shalt not kill, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days upon the land shall be long. It's the
Mhm.
one commandment we were given that has a promise. And yet kids aren't honoring their parents. I mean, they fight with us, and they do not believe the same things that we have taught them because of the indoctrination of the school.
It's
And
terrible.
these subliminal messages do come through on the internet and the TV sets.
Yeah.
And all of these shows that our kids watch, these series like Friends, and The Office, and some of these shows that are supposed to be funny and fun, they're actually teaching ideals and morality concepts that are actually amoral,
Yeah.
and making them look like they're okay, and they're really not. Thou shalt not commit adultery, and people are out there doing their brains out, doing stupid things and destroying their families. And so, the basic Ten Commandments, it's interesting, the story of Moses, how he went up and he asked this flame that never burned the bush, who are you? And the flame said, I am that I am. And actually gave some rules that were the higher law to Moses. And Moses came down off the mountain, and the people had already built a golden calf, and they were sacrificing their firstborns like they were trained to do under the god Baal, which is the satanic
Yeah. Hmm.
god, and they were sacrificing their children. And so Moses, he got so angry, he just threw these commandments down on the ground. They busted in a billion pieces, and he literally headed back up to God. And he said to God, these people aren't ready for these higher commandments. So God made the basic 10 commandments, because these people were so indoctrinated in all of the evils of the god Baal that they literally had to wander in the desert for 40 years to have them all die off, and have the new generation coming up be taught under the correct rule.
Well, you
And
see, yeah, the fact resistant humans didn't originate in this decade for sure.
yeah, it's amazing. And so, God, the I am that I am, wouldn't even let them go into Israel till they straightened out and got rid of all these negative thought forms and negative people. And so we need to get rid of the negative people out of our government who are trying to, who are Satanists. Literally, they are following the god Baal. They are not following uh, freedom, liberty, or the pursuit of happiness. They are enslaving our citizens.
Yeah, and it's through, it's not a coincidence that we saw this KGB defector talk about the demoralization of America and how utterly successful it has been to get Americans to completely believe lies and
Yes.
believe things that were completely untrue. How easy it was to do that. It's sad. It's very sad. It's also a very interesting case study, I would say, for psychology. But it's quite sad because if you demoralize, and then it means that slowly, incrementally, folks, they didn't do this overnight. Their MO is doing things incrementally. Okay.
Yep.
So, for instance, let's say It's a
Like a rated R movie wasn't really bad, but as time went on, they became worse and worse. And they became like X-rated movies, the old term, you know.
yeah, exactly. But I mean, getting someone to actually change something that they're doing, right? It's kind of like saying, okay, well, if you said, I want $600 today, you know, from you, Scott, uh, Scott, you'd be like, no, I can't really do that. Sorry. It's a little bit last minute notice or whatever, or you demand it from the government or whoever or whatever, right? Or if the government says this to you, okay? No, I'm not going to, better example. Government says to any one of us, we want you to give us $3,500 extra every year, okay? Or $5,000 extra, whatever. You'd be like, no way, that's ridiculous, that's huge, right? But if they put a tax on your consumption in addition to all the other taxes, and that's going to equate $3,500, but you don't know that that's the same tax. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, well, so people say, no, I'm not going to do it because, it's too drastic, it's too obvious, it's too noticeable. I would oppose it immediately, right? Um, and they're doing this with our Second Amendment, right? They're doing this with our First Amendment, right? Their goal is to do something drastic, but the means to that end is to do it incrementally. So over time, so they engineer these false flags to start little by little imposing new gun laws, right? They want to take an additional $3,500 from everybody, so they implement a new tax that's hidden in a bill that you don't know about, and then the next couple months they put another tax in there, and it increases that a little bit more, and then they put another tax. So they do things so it seems like they're just minor, increases, when the overall goal is to have this major change, so that we don't notice this. So on a moral sense, they've done the same thing. They've used political correctness as a Trojan horse. They've used the political correctness for religion, for economics, for our rights. In terms, they're using it to take our safety and security away from us by trying to defund the police. So it's so bizarre how this is getting, how certain cities are progressing into destruction, because people don't have a sense, they don't have a moral compass anymore. And
Yeah,
this is through the successful demoralization, maybe even, well, it's even a dehumanization, because they're trying to create transhumanists out of all of us.
yes, exactly.
Oh,
You know,
being
it's
human is
just,
a bad thing. They're trying to get us to believe that being human is bad, it's inept, that we can't compete with computers. Well, who cares? I don't want to compete with a computer. Let the computer do the computing, and I'll be the human. I'm not, why do we even need to be concerned, as Elon Musk is talking about, it's going to be, in the future, and it's going to take us over, so we might as well become one with it and get Neuralink and get hooked up, and to these wires, and be part of the whole, Neuralink system. Well, we already have these abilities, or you wouldn't need to hook us up to these wires and try to connect us, because we have access to our own collective consciousness. So this is how they manipulate us, and that's why people need to be critical thinkers, and they need to see what the agenda is behind it. But I have to tell you, I mean, sadly, I think a lot of people are just hitchhikers here in this incarnation. They just kind of bummed a ride on this planet, and they could care less really what happens. Too many.
oh, I tell you, I know that we all need to bring love back into the combination, because, when we as humans are all congruent with our love, or even a million of us congruent with our love,
Yeah.
it will raise the human resonance of the planet, and it raises the consciousness of the planet. And so if we get enough of us telepathically communicating love to others and asking them to wake up to the truth, it's going to be much more powerful, because we as humans, we have gifts that, we have been told is just voodoo or woo woo or whatever. But, we are much more powerful beings than we realize. And when we wake up to love, and consciously send that love out to each other. And love is not sex, folks. You know, that's the big lie. That's how they converted us all to doing bad things, is they kept telling us, oh, making love is sex, you know. But no, love is a kindness. It's thoughts of adoration and gratitude that actually bring in the true creative energies of humans. And when we get out of that love and go into subversive types of sex or taking advantage of others, that is not love. That is diabolical. It's the opposite of love. And, you know, I was looking up while you were talking the VAT tax in Europe. And in Luxembourg, it's only 17%, but most of the European Union, it's 27% for the VAT tax. So the tax you were talking about, the
Yeah.
commodity tax,
Mhm.
you literally are spending 27% of your income just to support a diabolical enslaving government.
Right.
And, you know, and the Europeans all voted, okay, let's do this. You know, one of the reasons they had the Brexit is the people in Great Britain were sick and tired of paying a tax on all their commodities with being part of the European Union. And you know, they're trying to impose these taxes like the CO2 tax of the Paris Accords that President Obama okayed without the consent of the Congress. You know, they were going to
That's
implement that on us.
right.
And thank God Trump came in and got rid of it.
That's a perfect example of the tax that I was referring to, is that they want to take more money because they need to bring in their own, this is to fill their black projects. Because how would we actually, account for where that money actually ends up going? And there was a lot of other problems. It was still kind of bribes paying off Iran and things like that that were in those Paris agreements. And, President Trump, as he said, the buck stops here, and he's doing the same thing with China. There's lots of other things kind of come out about with China too. And, just take the president's lead on that, because he knows what he's talking about. But you're absolutely right, Scott. And the thing is that when it comes to love, isn't it not how you yourself, when you think about how treat others as you yourself would want to be treated, by them, by anybody? And what is that? Has anybody really stopped to think about, how do you want to be treated? What does it look like? Get a piece of paper and write it down. What does it look like?
Yes.
Write down what love is, with a line down the middle, and what love isn't, and then make your list. And you're
Yes.
going to know, do you embody this side, or do you embody this side? Or are you a combination of the two and a work in progress, and want to work on how to figure out? Because if some people might not really know. Some people might not
Yes.
know because maybe they never experienced it. That's fine. But if they might not have much self-love either, so they might not understand that, or not have a connection with Creator, with your own spirit, your own soul. So all you need to do is connect with your soul, and you're connected with the Creator. But
Yes.
because your soul knows, your spirit knows what's right and what's wrong. It's when you allow your mind, unfortunately, because today it's all this mind control, right? So we're not having our thoughts are being adulterated, unfortunately. Our belief, let's just say our beliefs, our belief systems are being adulterated. So that's, and you feel the conflict within. You feel the cognitive dissonance when you're trying to make decisions about things, and you realize that your spirit is telling you something's not right here. This is like against your spirit. This is against what you believe. This is against too. So, folks, we just need to make sure we know who we are, and don't let this Trojan horse of political correctness destroy our country. That it is working, and if we understand, again, as we were showing the Declaration of Independence, they derive their power from us, from the consent of the governed. We have given consent to this. and we must stop it. It says it right
Yes.
there in the Declaration of Independence. Those are our instructions to retain our liberty. Those are our instructions.
And they're beautiful instructions. I mean, these guys were literally worked and worked and worked to
Mm.
put this together. And they came up with the most beautiful doctrines. And it was something that they did say, if you don't be vigilant, you're going to lose these rights again, because there's tyranny always happening all around us.
Mhm.
We have to be careful to protect our rights, and we have not been careful. We have been watching bad movies, we've been watching bad TV shows, we've been being subliminary
Yeah.
ingrained by MK Ultra
Mhm.
to do their bidding and become who they designed us to become. And so many of us have been brainwashed to the point where we don't know right or wrong anymore. And we are agreeing with amoral behavior. And, it's just amazing to me that they're even trying to add to the LGBT, whatever it is, community,
Right.
a P on there of pedophilia being a normal human behavior.
They'll do it.
Uh,
They'll do it
They
because
they are doing it right now. That they're having forums. They had a lady on a TED talk giving a talk how, oh, we need to normalize pedophilia. Oh my goodness, folks, on. Who in their right mind wants to destroy a child, turn them into a psychotic, messed up person by abusing them
yeah,
with
look, it's
sex or whatever?
this is about exploitation. This is about allowing deviant people to legally get away with destroying, to exploit a child who cannot give consent. That's what it's about. And if you are about civil rights and you are about what's right and what's wrong, you cannot ignore this. You cannot say there's no argument. Oh my God, and I have to tell you, there isn't even an argument. I'm sorry for Benjamin Fulford, who said there's a difference between prepubescent and postpubescent girls. Yeah, there is, and they're still both illegal and it's statutory rape, regardless. So,
Yes.
trying to, go up at bat for, Prince Andrew didn't really win him any points, unfortunately, I have to say. Um,
Oh,
it's right and wrong. You can't. It is black and white. We have a law to protect children for a reason, and what is that adult going to become? An
yeah,
exploited.
the
Where were the
abused.
adults? Where were the adults to protect him? And it is our
Mhm.
responsibility. So don't let anybody tell you that it's not, and don't let anybody tell you that it's okay, and don't let anybody tell you that that psychopaths are normal. They're not normal people. They're not
No,
normal.
and the abused become the abusers,
Right.
especially if they don't
Sadly.
get treatment. And so we found, through the ages, that most of these things are pushed on these kids, and they end up thinking this is okay to
Yeah.
do this,
Right.
and they do it to others. And that's what creates these problems. And I'll have a bunch of
Vicious cycle.
naysayers out there saying otherwise, but if
Right.
you're amoral or you don't have a moral compass,
Yeah.
you do cause trouble with other human beings.
Sure.
And we need to recognize that a good morality
Yeah.
is
Mm.
actually a good love
Yeah.
and a good consciousness. It
Well,
doesn't create humans that have been
yeah,
abused.
these are where these are the seeds of narcissism. I mean, if you're an amoral person, you're most likely, you know, a narcissist, or if you don't have any morals. And I'm not talking about whether you believe in God. I'm talking about whether you have a moral compass. People who
Yes.
are amoral and don't believe, people who, and when I say amoral, it means they believe they are without moral judgment. That's the definition. I've looked it up.
Yep.
Okay, people who believe that they are beyond the sphere of moral judgment.
Yes.
That's not healthy, folks. We are all within the sphere of moral judgment. Nobody is excluded from that. And that's where you really, that's where you birth narcissism, because the
Yes.
people who have no boundaries, they have no concept of boundaries, they constantly violate your boundaries of all kinds, all social norm boundaries, and they feel vindicated and they feel empowered to do it. And they will just look at things from a perspective that justifies their violation of your personal space, or your uh, you know uh, whatever boundary, relationship boundary, things of that nature, feeling like they have every right to be promiscuous um, when you're in a committed relationship or marriage. You can't reason with these people. And we all know somebody like that. We all do. Why would we want to create more narcissists and people who are damaged? And maybe many of them were damaged in childhood. So why would we want to create more of that? It's really a sad thing. Once people have to realize, Scott, that we are in the fight for survival of humanity on this planet. This is where we are absolutely at this point in time. And people who aren't tuned in to the GoldFish Report, and other channels, of course, really don't get it. They're not going to understand that this is really the point in time that we're at. We are either going to fight to keep this country, or you're going to, passively uh, lose it.
Yeah. And, the vaccines that they're wanting to enforce and give everybody,
Mm.
that's why I'm so happy with what this court ruled yesterday.
Oh, which court was that? Because someone did ask for
Oh,
the citation. Was it in New York,
I,
maybe, or it was a court ruling,
no,
though?
it,
Okay.
it wasn't here in St. George, but it was a bunch of people fighting immunizations. Look up Robert K. Kennedy,
Yeah.
J. Kennedy Jr.
Yeah.
and recent immunization ruling
Okay, and court ruling. Okay, and court ruling. Okay, very good. I remember
is is the best way to look it up.
before our live stream was cut, rudely cut, um, as we were reporting the news. Um, one of the viewers had asked for a citation. What was where did you hear that? And I told her to do the same thing, just Google it. So but
Yeah,
since we're on Facebook live stream now, because our YouTube live stream was cut, so hi everybody on Facebook who's watching, but that's why we're here right now. It just seemed so kind of amazing that they are watching this live stream in real time, or their algorithms or their AI, whatever is doing it. But we were absolutely shut down like that. As soon as we
yeah,
reported something that was not along their uh, allowed narrative. But the problem is, maybe a lot of people, as we were talking about all of this, maybe a lot of people just figure, well, we can't get better people in office. We can't get people that have, you know, like, you kind of have to be corrupt to be a politician. Like, there's people that really just accept this. And if someone violates your rights, well, you get an attorney and you go to the law and all that. But it doesn't work out that way, folks. I mean, you have to have people who themselves are going to have integrity. But when you have, and then you have like people like Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, who will set up blackmail operations. Don't walk into the trap. Just don't walk into it. We had Cynthia McKinney saying she had to swear an oath to Israel when she was elected congresswoman, but you don't hear that reported in the mainstream media. So we have a lot of problems in this country. I really do. I think that President Trump has the weight of the world on his shoulders, and he's up against really, really, really powerful dark forces against him, who have been ruling this domain and are no longer permitted to rule this domain, and do not want to give up without causing as much trouble as possible and as much destruction as possible. So we'll see what happens. I think that, the sooner that we can all come together and learn to help one another, and learn that that's how you would want to be treated. Honestly, folks, it's those people who say, "Oh no, I'm fine, I'm fine." The first ones that call out for help when a real tragedy happens. They're the
yeah,
first ones. I mean, let's give an example. The people over that created Chaz, right? So, okay, defund the police. Police are bad, right? And then there's all these shootings, and they're calling for police. Police like, I'm not coming. You were not
Yeah.
coming in there. We're not coming in there.
I'm
Delivery
not getting
trucks.
paid to protect you anymore. Why should I?
Well, this is the reality. See, they're the first ones, right? First
Yep.
ones. We don't need the police. No, no. Goodbye. We're not funding you. No funding the police, right? And then what do? They call the police when there's all these shootings that start happening. And, these people were dying because there was no EMS services either. They weren't coming to their rescue. They weren't helping them. So for people, people can be indifferent. Oh, it's the land of the free. I'm free to think what I want. I'm free to vote if I don't want to. I'm free to do this. I'm free to do that. Hey, well, guess what? But your lunch isn't free. So you can go to socialist country if you want, or you can participate in this society. But at the end of the day, you are going to have to make a choice. You can't just sit on the sidelines. That's why I think we have a lot of hitchhikers with us. We have a lot of
Yeah.
hitchhikers that kind of jumped in a womb last minute and kind of incarnated. some
Oh,
some outlaw souls who have reincarnated and appeared, and really don't belong here. But what are you going to do? Well, we can't just accept that corruption is a part of the job for politicians, because then we have that's
that's where we got in our problem, giving
that's
the
where we are.
politicians too much power. We need to
Where we
vote
are.
them out.
That's where we are. Exactly. But Scott, I think you agree that we have to do something. Everybody has to do something, anything positive, anything in the right direction. Just think about what kind of quality of life you want. Think about what kind of way, how you want to be treated by other people, and just be that. You think, therefore you are. I think, therefore I am. Yeah, it is very true. You are what you think. You are what you eat. You are what you think. Right, Scott?
Yes, absolutely. And if
Mm.
they're planning to put everybody in high rises in big cities and have cameras on everybody, have everybody controlled through AI implants. And that's not what I want.
Yeah. No.
I want my freedom. I want my kids to be free. And I want my grandchildren growing up in freedom, and their children growing up in freedom. And yet we're all feeding into this diabolical plan of control and enslavement.
Yeah.
And so it's time to wake up and start loving each other, start getting more coherence with all of us humans. And literally, love cannot uh, exist in fear, because fear excludes love from being a part of your system. And the MK Ultra and the CIA, they know this.
Mm.
And so that's why they've orchestrated this pandemic. Brennan knew all about it. Brennan, the CIA director, he knew it was coming. And Trump, one of the reasons he fired Brennan is because Brennan had become one of these diabolical people who wanted to enslave all of humanity.
Yeah.
And it's sad, but this is true. They've used MK Ultra, they've used subliminal messages on our TVs, our computers, to ingrain untrue thoughts in our minds and create a subconscious that is following the leader. And the leaders need to be the best people on the planet, because if they're not, if they're enslaving us, they're enslaving us.
Yeah, we have to do a better job. We have to do a better job. There's no question about it. What are we going to do?
And I love your writing down.
Yeah.
Write and burn, and writing down a list of things is a very powerful way of making your subconscious look at things and pulling you out of the mind control. Because as you're writing it down, you see, and then you read it and you go, oh my gosh, what am I truly for and against? And because, in school now, they don't teach critical thinking at all. They just teach you what you're supposed to believe. And, critical thinking was taught in my medical school. In fact, they said 50% of what you're learning right now is going to be proven untrue in 10 years. And sure enough, 10 years later, 50% was untrue. And 10 years after that, another 50% was proven untrue. But now people are set to do, the standard of care, or you're committing fraud. So in other words, they've standardized medicine to the point where the doctor can't use any intellect to decide what to do with you. No intuition. They have to do a standard of care, which is made by the hospital system, the pharmaceutical industry, and used to be the insurance industry, but now the government controls the insurance.
Okay, I'm trying to look. I'm just trying to take a peek right here at my account settings for YouTube, and they're not indicating any reason why they killed my stream. So we'll see what happens later. I'm sure they were going to put some kind of violation, community
Yeah.
violation strike on there. But I think you've gotten the point. Yeah, no, it's a great idea. I mean, if people really don't know what love is, don't, beat yourself up over it. Just, make a list, draw a column. All right, love isn't. All right, not
Love is
love
and love
and
is.
love. Okay, here we go. Look, love, not love. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah, write
that's simple.
down your belief systems of what
Yeah.
love is. A lot of
You
people
might
write,
surprise
oh,
yourself.
good sex is love, No, good sex isn't love.
No,
What is love is being cared for.
even bad sex isn't love.
Nurtured.
I mean, any sex.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So,
because we've been so ingrained to think that we need sex, and it's something that all of us deserve every day or whatever. Well, I had a good friend who would come home and demand sex from his wife every day.
yeah.
And literally she got so sick and tired of it, she divorced him. And this kind of thing is happening because, we're thinking things that aren't real.
Oh God, there's someone in my, oh my God, I don't even want to say, like, I know somebody who told me her husband forced her to have intercourse 3 times a day for like 3 years. I mean, as an OBGYN, what the heck is going on down there? I mean, I can't even imagine this woman having, not having any kind of problems. I just can't imagine what a sicko that this man would do this to her. And it's kind of like if she doesn't consent to it, he'll go get it somewhere else because apparently he's a sex addict, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of thing is really, dangerous. But yeah, I mean, so when you think about sex, it's an expression of love, but it's only one. I mean, it's a verb. Okay, here, love. Hold on a second. This is really what's most important. Love is a verb. You need to write the verb also down there.
It's an action. It's
action
an
word.
action that you take that isn't sex, but it's a concern and of others. And narcissism is love of self and
there
not
you
others.
have it. There you have it. Exactly. Yeah. And those people.
Narcissism is not love.
Yeah. And look, I'm not berating people who are narcissistic. They're damaged. They need help. But they are very destructive. Their behavior is destructive to other people. And and they're extremely good. They're extremely charismatic and charming, and they know how to manipulate. And sadly, that people have to do that because they feel so empty or small inside that they don't feel like they really have the right skills to court someone, properly, or to get what they want in a in the more authentic way. They have to be inauthentic about it, and it's a problem. They really need help.
Yeah, they've had TED Talks about narcissism and how it's a okay, acceptable behavior. And yet, we look back in time and the narcissist caused a lot of problems.
Yeah, well, I think that's probably most members of Congress. So, there you have it.
Yeah, most members of Congress, all the kings and queens, they become these narcissists, and hurting other people doesn't become any sort of impediment to what they're thinking.
And we know that because of our recent Nancy Antoinette, who showed everybody her $25 quarts of ice cream in her $25,000 refrigerator
Oh Lord.
while everybody was in lockdown, not able to work and earn income for their families. So
Yeah.
look, I think we've laid it out, Scott. I think we've done a good job. This was a good report. Despite the technological issues we've had to deal with, we still end up going live. And of course, I'm still pre-recording this. And the good thing about it, folks, is that if you pre-record, I don't just do my live streams right off of YouTube because of this reason. Because you will lose your material, you will lose it unless you can download it very quickly afterwards. You'll lose it. They'll just take it, so it'll be
Yeah.
gone for good. And that
Yeah.
that has happened. But the good thing about it is that I always had the Zoom MP4 file backup, so it wasn't a problem, and that's what we're still using right now. So everybody, thanks for joining us. Thanks for everybody joining us who's in watching us on Facebook. This is new for us to live stream on Facebook. I try not to do it too much because I know how Facebook is. But clearly, YouTube's the front runner at this point.
Oh my goodness.
I
Yeah.
know, I know. But this will be uploaded to the channel. It will be on BitChute and it will be on YouTube. I probably will go and edit that because obviously, if they kill the live stream because of that image, then the video will be terminated on YouTube. So I won't be able to upload. I won't be able to keep it there. So I'll probably have to go edit this anyway. Whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. It's okay. Care if we give a blessing?
Oh, please do, please do.
Okay. So we'll go ahead with a blessing. In the name of the Almighty I am that I am, the creator of the universe, we give you all a blessing, and by divine direction of the great divine director, we bless you that you will have your thoughts on creating your life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness scenario of actually having your freedoms restored to you, that you communicate this telepathically with others, as right now they will fight you even against these God-given sovereignty rights. We bless you that you will be able to communicate love to others telepathically and ask them to wake up to the truth of what's really happening. And we bless each and every one of you to oxygenate and deep breathe and meditate and use your breath to give you life, because that's how God gave us life, was through the breath. Bless you that you will all have abundance and joy and happiness in your lives. But number one, take back your sovereignty. Take back your God-given rights that were given to you by God and not any governments. We bless you that you'll follow and elect leaders that will give you back your freedom, your agency, your ability to pursue life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Happiness is taking care of each other. True happiness comes from selfless service to others. And so know that our true happiness comes from serving one another and being kind to one another and taking care of each other. Do your projects now. Don't wait for monies, but start now and use your abilities to create a more beautiful, happy, and peaceful planet. It is up to us to all wake up to the truth that you are the ones who are needed to bring forth back freedom and love and joy to this planet. We bless you that you will have the ability to have this sink into your minds and your subconscious, that you will start to love others as you would want to be loved yourself. And we bless you with these things in the name of the Almighty I am that I am, in the name of Jesus Christ.
So
God
it
bless you.
So it is. Thank you very much for that, Scott. That was wonderful. And to all of our viewers, thank you so much for viewing. Sorry about the interruptions. I'm going to go through and do a little editing to clean it up because you don't want to hear me talking about how we were. But you know what, folks? You can see directly the interference that we had. Our live feed was killed, and you know, you experienced it with me. It's not just hearsay. You're not just hearing me say it anymore. You were with me as it was happening. So I might leave that in because I want people to see that. I want you to realize what they're doing. And despite the fact that we have a law saying this is now a public forum, forum. Yeah, it's a public forum. So therefore, First Amendment should be permitted. That's within the First Amendment protections. Reporting the news of these nude women screaming under mind control is, or demon control, whatever that was, is news. And, it does not violate any of the limitations on free speech. So, I don't know what's up with YouTube, but that's what they're doing. They're trying to control the narrative. And folks, it is going to get crazy. This is an election year. So prepare for a little bit more insanity, I have a feeling. But
Yes.
just keep watching GoldFish Report. We'll try to keep you grounded as we try
Yes.
to stay grounded ourselves, right, Scott?
That's absolutely correct. And prayer and meditation grounds you, and it helps bring upon the blessings of heaven. So
Yeah.
continue to pray and meditate.
Very good. Thanks for your time. It was good to see you, Scott. It's been a pleasure, as always, doing these Food for the Soul series with you. They're just, among my favorite reports that I do. So it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
I pray that I give good messages. I just don't want people love each other, be kind to each other.
Yeah.
And that will solve all the problems on the planet.
Yeah, and repent too. Repent and ask for forgiveness for what you've done, because we're all going to be challenged big time coming up, and we need to try to help each other through it. So that's it for us for today. We'll see you. I'll be back tomorrow to do a POTUS report. Hopefully live streaming that, but we'll see. If not, we'll. If there's any issues with YouTube, we'll just be on BitChute. You can find us there. And that's it. So everybody have a great weekend. And this concludes this edition of the GoldFish Report.